welcome into the studio. Today we are starting our wilderness 3-day test/challenge. I was challenged by a viewer, said you couldn't survive 3 days in the wilderness, as a comment on one of our videos having to do with what's in your pack and so on for hunting. So we're going to start with the gear I am taking with me, and probably going to streamline a lot, including what I am wearing. Head to toe what I'm wearing today. Not this, but this will be my summertime wear. It's poly cotton blend, same matches the camo pattern. On my head for this trip, I will have my 100% wool campaign style hat with my ear pro attached. 550 cord braided, just in case you got super emergency. 550 cord hat band. Okay. Poly cotton blend, true spec brand, digital woodland. It is a 60-40 blend of poly cotton. You want poly cotton, not 100% cotton, because cotton wicks. The SAR antage or outdoor antage is cotton kills, so we don't want that. So we want synthetics or wool. And wool is expensive, wool is heavy. But wool will keep you warm and insulate even when it's wet. A lot of synthetics will not do that. Fleece does not do that. Fleece is great if you're in super dry country. I do not live in dry country, as we all know. This is a 100% wool Mackinaw type wool, Filson brand jacket liner, but it goes perfect for layering underneath my camo. I like to have the camo on the outside, not just for camo purposes, but for dirt and other things, because it's easier to wash than the Mackinaw wool. So in here, I have a little device thing and a dog tag, not a military one I had made up, that has my blood type, my in case of emergency number, my name, my birthday on it. So just in case I should die out there, somebody would know, or if I couldn't tell them, they would be able to get a hold of people. Synthetic t-shirt, yes, I wear a belt and suspenders, nylon belt for doing several things with. Suspenders help keep the pressure off my hips over a long time when I'm wearing a lot of crap in my pockets. Pockets, I have a flashlight, I have my Leatherman tool, I got my wallet, I have my lighter, and I will probably have a couple other things. I've got my gloves. The gloves are Nomex, so if you've ever been out in the woods around fires and melted a hole in your nylon type gloves, that's why you want Nomex. They're Air Force type flight gloves. Work really, really, really good. I love them for that. They're not cold winter gloves, but for out here, they're pretty good, and they don't absorb a lot of moisture either. The pants are the same poly cotton blend, same pattern, and down here on my feet, you look under the table, you will see I've got Oregon or Outdoor Research gaiters, the heavy duty type ones, and they're waterproof. On my feet, I have alpaca wool, hollow brand socks, and my boots are Danner 10-inch tall, Canadian model, 600 Thinsulate insulation in them, 600 grams. So that's what I'm wearing. Underwear is the same Under Armour type stuff, because cotton is miserable when it gets wet. It doesn't do anything for you. At least the synthetics dry out quicker. Next, we're going to get into this. Okay, before we get into the gear itself, we have a few caveats and yabbits and all those things Paul used to say. Nothing I tell you should be taken as you have to do these, even when I say you should or you have to, whatever. Okay? Nothing I tell you is an absolute. You need to find what works for you, what gear works for you, what brands you work for you. Just because I have a Glock sitting here today doesn't mean that you have to go out and get a Glock. I have mine laid out the way I like it laid out, but you need to find what works for you, what type of style works for you, and make your own choices. I'm merely showing suggestions and what I think you should keep into your type of gear. With that, we need to talk about electronics. When Paul did his video years ago, he didn't really cover electronics. Electronics have come a long way since then. On my phone, I pay for a subscription, and again, no brand names are sponsors or anything else like that. This is on its hunt. You can zoom in, zoom out, track yourself, which is what is here. Okay, and you can mark your location and so on. Keep in mind, electronics on your cell phones only work if you've downloaded the maps and stuff to your cell phones first. Sometimes all that data you don't have enough service to get, and therefore you don't have what you thought you had leaving home. There are several tracking type devices out there that you can send short messages with that I know have saved lives and saved people when they get lost. I was looking at some YouTube channel. This lady got sick out in the Pacific Crest Trail, or one of the major trails, had to push the go button and had a helicopter come rescue her. I know personally, where I used to work, there was a woman that was not too far from her house, but her horse fell down or kicked her off, whatever it did. She broke her leg. She had one of these, I won't believe they're InReach brand name, but one of these emergency beacons. It sends a message of her location with lat and long to a monitoring station who called the sheriff's office, and we basically walked right to her, thus probably saving her life, but at least getting her the help, and she didn't have to lay there with her broken leg for a long time. Those type of electronics and devices are huge and well worth the money, but again, you have to choose whether you're hunting on 100 acres or 100 miles of wilderness area. Having a paper map backup is always good, because if you're out there too long, your cell phones will go dead. The next thing I'd like to talk about real quick is following the rules. And I'm not saying that as a cop and as a tyrant and other things I've been labeled. I'm saying that because the reason we have some of these rules is because others have made those mistakes, and we don't want to get hurt and injured by not following some of those rules. One of them is tell people where you are going and when you plan to come back. That is super simple. Write it down maybe. I've alluded to other videos where I've said, well, we were going to the Trask. Well, the Trask is several hundred, probably, square miles. It's huge, and you need a starting place, a road number, anything that where you might park your car, etc., so that search and rescue and others can have a starting point to look for you. Anecdotally, go prepared. I am way over prepared for a normal trip with the gear that we're going to show you today. And I'm going to try to pare some of it down. A few years ago, here in Oregon, we had a really bad fire season. And one hot summer day, there was up in a very, very popular hiking area, a wildfire got started by somebody with fireworks, but either way, got started. Now, in about 3 miles or so, and I don't have all the exact distances, but far enough, there was a very nice waterfall that people like to walk to. And they went in there in their swimsuits and their flip-flops and their sandals and other things, no gear, no anything, because they're just going to go in, play in the waterfall on this super hot summer day, and come back out. Excuse me. Except the fire got started behind them. The only way out was about a 9-mile hike to continue the trail. Most of them didn't know that. I believe it was U.S. Forest Service, but I'm not positive, had to send a ranger in that other trail to meet up with them. They ended up spending the night, and even though it was summer, when your bikini's wet or your swimsuit's wet and all you're on is flip-flops, 50 degrees, even 60, 70 degrees starts to get cold. or at least feel cold. They made it through the night, miserable, of course, but they made it through the night and then they walked out. Well, I don't know about you, but I would prefer not to have to walk an additional 9 miles in my sandals or swimming shoes or whatever it was that they had on them. And I'm not saying anything bad about those folks. A lot of people go to our national parks, our city parks, our state parks, and take off walking 6, 7 miles sometimes with absolutely no gear, not even a bottle of water with them sometimes, because they're in a park and they feel secure. Silver Falls State Park here in Oregon is our largest state park, and it is a beautiful area with a lot of waterfalls and stuff. A few years ago, family took off late, this time of year, maybe a little sooner. Long story short, somehow got off the trail, couldn't find the trail. They're out there in just clothes, no extra clothing, no real coats or anything, and it ended up snowing just a little bit on them overnight, but they had to cuddle up in their t-shirts and just their light shirts, and they had a small child with them. They got through the night. People found them. But again, miserable, miserable night. And they had maybe just a little pack and the skills and the knowledge to just get a little fire going, or even a little camp stove to just get you warmed up a little bit, because even one of those little backpacky stoves can put off enough heat to feel better and psychologically help you through the night. We have seen people that were not prepared to be out in the woods. A search I was personally involved in, this person, they were out with their family in a small area. The family said, don't go over this ridge, which is only a few hundred yards away, if that. They were picking wild edibles, and somehow this person got separated from them toward daylight. Toward the end of the day. They had search and rescue. They flew drones that night. We looked around all over the place, couldn't find them. Oh, well, we flew drones and things like that. We didn't have a direction of travel, but we knew where he was last seen. We couldn't find him that night. For 3 days, we looked for this person, and we had a helicopter help us, and the helicopter found them about 4 miles away from where they were last seen in a straight direction. They were almost exhausted at that point. Helicopter picked them up, flew them straight to the hospital. Unfortunately, that person passed because their kidneys shut down, and he was a little elderly. Because he didn't drink any water, had no supplies, because he wasn't planning to spend the night or anything else. He spent the night, we know now, sitting next to a creek. But he didn't drink the water, most likely for fear of getting sick. In his confusion, lack of water, something, he walked across several logging roads that we ran with four-wheel drive clubs and stuff. We searched those roads. Had he just stopped and sat on a road? But he didn't. We can't ask him why, but we do know that when people get lost, they get a little dehydrated, they start a little hypothermic, their brain doesn't work as well, they don't make decisions that can save their lives sometimes. Go prepared. At least a super bare minimum. Extra t-shirt, rain jacket, and so on. Look up the 10 essentials list. And there's been a 10 essentials list for coming up on 100 years, I think now. U.S. Forest Service put out one. The Boy Scouts put out one. REI, which is an outdoor equipment company, put them out. They've gone from an actual list to a list of systems. So instead of saying extra water and extra clothes, it's water, like a filter. So you can take water with you, but filter water when you're out there. It's not a book of matches or waterproof matches. It's fire starting materials. It's not a compass, it's a phone and a compass and other things. It's extra clothing. It's not just snacks, but emergency type food. So go out and look those up. They will give you a great place to start and start putting stuff together. And as you can tell from this, you can get a little carried away when you start adding stuff up, doing redundancies, and so on. So I'm going to take a quick break here, and then we'll go through this finally, tell you why I picked what I did, see if we can pare it down some, because it is way too heavy for me to just be taken out there on a short walk for the day. We're going to start on one end, work our way to the other. Keep in mind, no particular brands. I will tell you the brands if I know them. I have picked them just because that's what I have. I've got more boxes of trauma kits and crap that I've collected over all the years. And I'm going to start with overall why I have a military rig sitting here versus a backpack. And I have a backpack that hopefully I'll get in here just to show you the difference. I like being able to access my equipment. I like being able to carry a sidearm that's not interfering with on my belt or whatever, which is why chest rigs are so popular. And if you watch my Will Your Firearm Work in Contact with Your Intended Target video, I discuss a little bit about chest rigs and why they're simple. But if I drop all this to start getting in here, I don't have the gun on me all of a sudden. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. To me, a chest rig, when I put binoculars on, especially if I'm hunting, then it clangs around, they bang against each other. So I really haven't found the chest rig that I want quite yet, but they are exceptionally popular and exceptionally practical for a lot of ways. If you're a fly fisherman, you can put your waders over them, you can put your jacket over them, or you can put it over your jacket anyway. But I don't have one quite yet, so I have the gear that I have. So this is mostly surplus or was issued to me way back in the 80s, just gear. So what I have here is just an old-fashioned M16 ammo pouch. Yeah, back when you could put 3 30-round magazines in them. And I have 2 100 count 22 long rifle because I don't have it pictured here right now. I'm going to take my nylon 66 with me. The pretense is I'm out just in the woods. I like having a rifle with me along with a handgun. I'm just plinking. It's just a day. And something goes bad and makes me end up spending the night for a couple nights. So M16 ammo pouch, 2 100 count with Ranger bands on the lids to keep them in place. Here I have my Glock 22 with a 1000 lumen light on it, 40 Smith & Wesson, night sights on it, on a drop leg operation, keeps it a little bit lower so it doesn't hang up with my coat and stuff. Here is probably going to be my first swap out. Yes, I know it wasn't attached. So I have this great big knife here because I'm not taking a saw or a hatchet. I thought, well, for making wood and stuff. And this is the SP10 Raider Bowie by Ontario Knife here in the USA. But it's big and it's heavy. And I just happened to recently get this very nice by Fox Run Forge by last name of, VOLPE. Volpe, I hope. And he made this for Paul. It says Paul's got crossed 1911s and it's got some 223 type rounds. This is completely handmade, folks. It is super sweet, nice, heavy duty leather sheath. I've only had it a couple days, but we're probably going to take it with us and use it. Blued steel, Bowie type configuration. Check this out. Pop-Tart, one Paul's favorites on each side. It is gorgeous, well fit up. Thank you, Dante. We're going to take this out there. He said feel free, it is not just an art piece. So we are going to do that. And it's just a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, so it'll go in here. Standard everyday 1 quart canteen. My goodness. This military 1 quart canteen. But in the bottom, I have canteen cup stove. If you've never seen them, they go like this. This canteen cup, believe it or not, somewhere I picked up and I've had for years and years. So if you're not familiar, a lot of times the military puts a stamp on them. This says U.S. 1944. I have used this, abused this. It's been a lot of miles with me. It works great. I love the heavy duty handle instead of those butterfly type handles. I'm sure it weighs just a few ounces more than the modern ones, but this has been a great cup for me. And obviously I've used the stove. You can put it in a fire, or you can put it just, whatever you want underneath it. It's a pretty nice little system. Okay. With that, in the little pouch that's designed for it, water purification tablets. A little bit of redundancy you'll see later. I'm going to skip over everything in here. I have the same setup over here, except for I only have one of the super fancy handles. I have the butterfly handles on this cup, and I think I have, although I have more than one canteen cup stove. Oh, I fibbed. I do have another cup with a fancy handle, but only one stove with me. No real reason to carry 2 stoves. And the cup is a little bit newer, you can tell, rolled lip on it and so on. And then over here I have bottle 2 of my water purification, and these are the neutralizers, take some of that miserable iodine taste out of your water. Okay. It says med right on it. It is a trauma kit that I have put a boo-boo bag in with it. A little bit of meds, rubber gloves, tape, just standard Band-Aids, small stuff. And then this is a blood stopper. I've got some vet wrap. I've got, some trifold gauze, some more trifold gauze. My tourniquet, my shears, 4x4s, and a SAM splint stuck back in there. And then a couple safety pins. It's on the outside where you can get to it, unzip it real quick, just like that. It's your standard everyday trauma kit with a boo-boo bag attached with it. There we go. I would tell you that, if you live in the Northwest or someplace there's a lot of rain and water, you might want to double check that your zippers are waterproof. Otherwise, that bag gets full of water. On this side, I've got my handgun mag. I did have 4 of them with me, and then I thought that is an extra whole bunch of weight that I don't probably need, especially with 100 rounds or 200 rounds of 22. So I'm only going to take 1 spare magazine for a total of 30 rounds with me. I'm not planning on doing a whole bunch of shooting. Hopefully not any. About 550 or more feet, 550 cord. True 550 military grade paracord. I have what, to save space and keep it from getting tangled, I have what they call daisy chain. Ha ha ha. And it just unravels like that. So that's how I put most of mine. That way it doesn't tangle up. It comes undone real quick. And it shortens up the area just a little bit. Lay that down the side. Because I tend to sweat a lot, I've got 2 or 3 just regular everyday, yes, they're cotton, bandanas. One's a 1 each triangle, camouflage they call it, military triangular bandage. And this is just a camouflage fancy thing. Okay. Anyway, got those with me. In the other pouch on the other side, I have a Write in the Rain pen, a Write in the Rain notebook, and my compass. Notebook, maybe I want to keep a diary. Who knows what I want to do. And I want to leave notes in case I do get up and move around. Which brings me to another story. So a couple years ago, I believe he was out in one of our mountain wilderness areas. Hunter gets separated from his hunting party. And he decides, now the guy's prepared, but for whatever reason, instead of sitting still, knowing that people will be looking for him, he decides that every day he's going to walk in a certain direction. So for, I want to say, 5 days, 4 or 5 days, he would walk, stop at night, build a fire, probably uncomfortable, but he was alive and so on. And he'd get up and do the same thing the next day. Now, here's one of those rules that we should follow. If you're with people and you know that they're going to know you didn't come back, sit down. Hold on. There's a thing. There's 2 things. One is hug a tree. That's what a lot of search and rescue people like to tell you. Basically, that means grab onto something, stop, and figure out a plan. The other one is what they call stop, which is stop or sit, think, observe, and plan. So you sit down, you calm down, whether you get your little stove out, you make yourself a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, take a minute. You think about where you are, what you got with you, what you're going to do, what your options are. You observe everything around you. Are you in a good enough spot? Can you spend the night here, etc.? And you make a plan. And if that plan is to get your shelter out or whatever it is, you make a plan. We find, just like my story of the guy that wouldn't drink and walked across roads, if he just stayed put, we would have found him the next morning. I can guarantee you we would have found him the next morning. He was close. We found where he sat beside the creek for the night. It was just over that ridge he wasn't supposed to go over, which was just probably within half a mile. Definitely within a mile of where he was supposed to be. But he didn't. And that's where I get back to, I'm not trying to be a tyrant when I tell you just follow the rules. The rules are there to help save our lives, especially when it comes to things like that and firearms. So anyway, this guy walked, I want to say 20 or 30 miles, maybe less, in a direction. A U.S. Forest Service person that had been on the search that decided he wanted to go do some deer hunting. He's driving around a road and he sees this guy stand beside the road, obviously dirty, half exhausted, etc., etc. And he stops, obviously because he's like, that looks weird. He's not just a hunter standing there. It's all good. And then he realizes he's the guy that everybody's looking for 20 miles the other way. If he just spent the night and not gotten up and moved, or gotten his bearings about him, or had his electronics or anything to say, this is the way you go back, he would have been better off. Now, obviously, like I said before, he was prepared. He was able to make a fire every night. Why? I didn't do an interview with him, so I don't know why he decided to keep walking a certain direction, but he's in a wilderness area, so it's big enough that he didn't hit a road real quick. Again, if he just sat there, he probably would have been found the next day. Gets me back to our compass. Know how to use your compass, but the simplest thing about a compass is if you're standing on road A and you want to walk, let's say north, you know road A is to the south of you. If you have a map or anything that shows you that road A, so you don't make the mistake Paul did, watch his video, where the road didn't do what he thought it did and he just missed it. But if you have a map that says road A runs a couple, 3 miles or more, basically north or east, west, whatever, you know that if you turn around and just walk south, you're going to hit road A sooner or later. Know where you are in the world. Know how to make sure you know which way the compass points and that metal interferes with it so you don't throw yourself off. There are times when you get in whiteouts, when it gets dark or it gets to the point that it's so dark you can't find the sun. Maybe the trees are huge, but the compass is going to help you out. Remember, keep it away from your knives and your guns and all that. All right. Now, to the nuts and bolts of the pack here. Emergency whistle, because it says we should, and again, with the redundancy, a compass that I'm not sure I'd ever trust my life to it. So we're going to take the half an ounce that is, because I'm going to have my phone with me. We're going to not use that little clippy thing for my whistle. Set that down here. I'm going to have to repack. In here I have, because I know I'm going for 3 days, I packed extra batteries. So I got my little super lightweight light that does white and less white, red, and green, so you don't want to spook, or uses less battery juice. I've got an extra set of batteries with it, lightweight super earplugs to go with my earplugs. These aren't costing me any weight or space, so I think I'll keep them, because those other ones I have on my hat are electronic, and they might go dead. Over here, I have what I put in all my packs, and that is to go with my wide brim hat. I know that if it gets super cold, it's not going to protect me. So another bandana, probably don't need 3. I'm going to set that one off to the side. Neck gaiter, face mask, help keep your neck warmed up, keep your face warmed up. Let's see, is this one got, and this, because it kind of looks cool, I think. But, and then a higher end beanie. It's got some reflective stuff. This happens to be a Storm Under Armour Storm. I don't know where I picked it up, but I did. Anyway, I got that. I always keep those type of things in here, because you never know when the wind comes up super bad, or if you are sleeping for the night, can't really keep the wide brim hat on, this will keep your head warmed up. That'll help a lot. So I'm going to lay that down there. Over on this side, I do like Under Armour, and I believe they are an excellent company, but there are a lot of companies out there making the same kind of stuff. So my hygiene kit, so to speak, and that is just some baby wipes, flushable type, not that I'll have to worry about that, a towel to get wet in case I really want to wash my hands, toilet paper. Okay, you could carry less, but again, I know if I'm going for 3 days, it doesn't weigh that much. So I am cheating a little bit, because I know I'm going for 3 days. Now, in here, I have this is really heavy, and I probably will take some of this off. There's more snare wire on here than I will ever need. So I will set that aside for now. I'm going to take some of that with me, but not a lot. You never know when you need really good wire. And for you ex-military guys or current military guys, you'll recognize that. In here, I got a towelette and several of MRE toilet paper, and a lot of those add water, make towels, and so on. So I'm going to pare this down. I don't need that MRE toilet paper. That's, fractions of an ounce. I probably don't need 2 or 3 more of these get wet paper towel things, except for they're not paper towels. All right, now okay. On the inside, this is a fanny pack, butt pack, 3-day kit. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's bigger than the old-fashioned 80s version of the military ones. So in this area, I have my comfort items. So I have Evolved brand, super low sugar snackage. Yeah, it's a type of candy, but it's candy that I can have. I have about 6 of my tea bag type things with my coffee in it. Definitely taking those. For going underneath my canteen cup stove, same fuel tab, so I don't have to build a fire, this is what I'm going to be using. I got 3 or 4 of those in here. Obviously, I'm keeping those. Yes, they're a little heavy, but I also have some of these SOL fuel cubes. The only thing I don't like about these is they're in plastic, and it burns the plastic, so it doesn't burn it quite as nice and clean as you would think. That you can always use these as a fire starter also. So it's gelled, and they work really well. I've used them before. And then I have 2 of these, which they're a little bit heavier, and what they are is a cover for your canteen cup, so your water boils faster, you don't get stuff in it, etc. But they weigh a couple ounces each. I am not going to take two. I thought, well, you'll need two, but I have two, but I'm just going to take one with me. All right, so I've got my, nobody goes to the woods without some sort of snack, so I do have that. And I never leave home without some coffee, just because I like to sit down and make myself a cup of coffee, and anything over a stove out in the outdoors smells better, tastes better. Set that aside. I have another SAM splint. I don't need two of these. So I have one in here, even though they are lightweight. If you don't know what a SAM splint is, it's a SAM brand. This is colored this way because it's military. You can bend them to anything you want. And then once you bend it, it's fairly stiff, so it will make a splint. You wrap your stuff in here, you roll your hand, and now you have a splint for your forearm or whatever. So they are very, very handy, very nice. You could cut them with your fancy shears. But again, I don't need two, so it's taking up space. So we'll set that to the side. Now, what I do need is extra socks and extra synthetic t-shirt, extra synthetic underwear. That I definitely have to keep with me. You never know when you fall in the creek and get soaking wet. From the inside out is really good. Two, I had at 5 at one point. Siloom, Chem Lights, break those. They're going to work great in my shelter, so I'm keeping those. And they work about 12 hours. Those happen to be green. I have found that even out in the woods, the green ones you see better than yellow would be second. Excuse me. A tube tent that is Mylar type material. I've never used these before. I've used a plastic tube tent. We'll see if this does any better keeping me warm, keeping warmth inside, maybe from the canteen cup stove or just the heat coming from my fire. So we have that we're going to put to the test. We've got another one also, MRE granola with milk and blueberries. So I got breakfast with me. Somewhere in here I do. I have a titanium spoon somewhere in my stuff. It's got to be here somewhere. So anyway, got that. So we're keeping those. Sawyer filter. So you put this on, you screw it onto a water bottle or to the bag that I have, and you fill the bag with water, you squeeze it through here, and you get water out here. Now, don't wait till you're out of water, because with any filter I have found, they are exceptionally, frustratingly slow to get water out of. It is a filter that takes out Giardia and those other things. It's a great product, but you're not going to guzzle water through it. So don't wait till your canteens are empty or your whatever water you're taking, and then expect to fill it up real quick. You got to squeeze it, or you would hang it up, gravity feed it. It takes a while. My fire starting kit. Gonna have to find that fancy spoon I was telling you about. Okay, fire starting kit. This is just a bag to help keep it together, keep it a little drier. Now I do have my fancy pull start fire. These will burn 30 minutes by themselves. So if all you were going to do is try to get warmed up and then move on, they work great for that. They burn completely away. You tie the green string to your wood or whatever you want to hold it in place. You pull the red string, it goes pop, it starts up right away. They are outstanding. I've used them several times. You don't have to get super tiny, tiny tinder because you have a fire going already. So lay out my fire starting stuff up there. I've talked about these before. This is just a piece of rubber tubing, copper tip on one end, plastic on the other. And for those that want, if you were going to drink out of a stream or anything else, it extends that. But what it really is a bellows. So you blow pretty gently and you get it down in your fire. No more of using your hat to blow that stuff around. No more of blowing in there and sucking in the the smoke and so on, trying to get down, lay on the ground, get filthy and dirty and wetter. You can squat down next to your fire or whatever, reach out there, keep it going. If it's super cold, one thing to be careful of is your your breath and the moisture will condense in this after a while, and you'll have a little bit dripping out there, so be aware of that. These are homemade. Anybody wants to rip off the idea, go ahead. They are outstanding. I've got one in every piece of my gear. Just outstanding piece of equipment. If you can't get a fire going with one of those, you're hurting. Now in this big, it's Bigfoot bushcraft little tin they sell, or it comes with it. They have, first of all, I added a couple little fire starter type things, and what they sell are these waxed cotton. Run them apart, tear them up like this, and tear them apart like this. You get the cotton hanging out there. Little spark on there gets them going. They also sell a ferro rod. We got one of those coming. But I have, these are just the bigger version of storm matches. And because I went out, and fire is important to me, so that's where the weight is, I have a Zippo brand, throws a spark. It's just like a lighter, but what's inside of it, are cotton balls that you put a stick through, and there's several more in here, and you pull them apart a little bit, and so you have that. But instead of a ferro rod, and I'm not going to do it here in my studio because I don't really have a good place to do it, but I tested this yesterday. These little sparks on here lights right up. So you can pull it apart. They'll burn about 5 minutes. I've got several in here. I've got some cotton balls in here with petroleum product on them. A couple more little cubes for a little bit of tinder, and some more of those fire plugs. So it all goes down to this little tin. The tin keeps it in one place. The tin keeps it handy. You could save a little bit of weight with a plastic bag, but the tin makes it really convenient. So we're going to go with the tin. And since fire is life and fire is comfort, I'm going to sacrifice the weight with the tin and my Zippo with more cotton balls and things to start and sparks, and my bigger stormproof matches, which are these. Okay. Little thing you should think about if you are one that are carrying strike anywhere matches in a waterproof container or any kind of moisture susceptible type matches. And Paul learned this on Up in the Dark one time. Pitch black. I don't know if it was when he was lost or not, but it doesn't matter. Pitch black. He's trying to get a fire going, and pouring rain, of course. And his hands were wet enough that when he grabbed the head of the match, it ruined the match. So even though they are waterproof matches, those little ones, you can get enough moisture in them, it ruins the match. So keep that in mind. Maybe you want to be under some cover or shelter or something. But if you put them in stick up, you can grab the stick and not ruin the head of the match. Just a little tidbit we found out. Makes a lot of sense. These, not so much, because these are the type that you can dip in the water. They'll restart. You can't blow them out. They do burn fairly quickly, though, and they burn away from what you're trying to light. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to light a cotton ball or some piece of tinder or something, it's going to burn kind of like a flare fairly quickly away from what you're trying to light. So there we go for that. Again, I didn't bring a stove because my intention is to use the canteen cup stove as a stove, and my heat tabs, or put it over a fire and do that. I'm going to put this very nice knife to the test. The guy said we could. And I believe minus my spoon, well, I'll go find it. It's just a normal titanium sporky thing. So we have all that. That's what we're going to go with. If you think I've overpacked, you can say so in the comments. We're going to test out this kind of equipment. And now we're going to move this aside, get out my civilian version one. And before we do that, I'll tell you that this is very intimidating to a lot of people not what you'd want to carry out in a state park or maybe even a trail out. You know, if you're out hunting and you're out in the woods and you don't really care, that's one thing. But if you're up on, say, our Columbia Gorge in normal hiking trails where you're going to run across a lot of people, this kind of militaristic type stuff can be intimidating. I like it because it's got all my shit out in the open where I can get to it. I don't have to take it off necessarily. That's why those things are back here. I need my med kit, it's there. I don't have to take my backpack off. I want my firearm, my knife, my water. I don't have to take all my backpack off to get into things. So that's why I like it, but I also know that it can be intimidating to some folks. So with that said, we'll take a little break, get this out of the way, and we'll get the civilian version of it out to you. Welcome back. Now we have our civilian version of our backpack and our survival gear and so on and so forth. A couple more little different things to this one. A lot more, shouldn't say a lot more stuff. And we're going to try to pare this one down also. Now, the disadvantage to this for me, wearing a sidearm, is that this belt sits above my waist, but if I put a gun on my hip, I can't get it out, it doesn't get in the way. If I put a gun on the belt itself, the waist belt of this pack, then it's too high for my short dinosaur arms and a short torso, and I can't get the gun out, especially with arthritic type shoulders nowadays. What I've done in the past is I've got a certain holster that has I can put on this strap over here for a makeshift shoulder holster, and that seems to work, although it's a little heavy. Again, though, the holster's on your gear. You take your gear off to work on stuff. Now, I don't have a gun. So I guess I'm going to be forced to go out and find the right, or a couple, 3 right chest rigs, because that's what the growing trend is and so on. Now, instead of canteens, I've got Camelback with frost-free valve, etc. It's 100 liters, which is plenty of water, should be, but when you think about it, that's only a liter a day, which we're supposed to be drinking far more than that. So if you were counting on just that and you did get stuck, it doesn't go very far. Carabiner, probably take one of these off, put on that military rig, just because you never know. These are rated carabiners. They are twist lock type genuine carabiners. They're not just for decoration. On this side, I have the same carabiner with a press 6 knot. This is supposed to be for a cell phone. It's a patch. It opens up. It's clear. And it works great when I'm sweating and the weather's just wrong or pouring rain. Take my glasses off, put in here. Now they're protected. So it works great for that. That's why I got it down there. Otherwise, the pack is a coaxial. It's a search and rescue pack. It is built off of their wildland firefighting pack. It's modular completely. You could take the Camelback that's in here off. You could take this off. You could make it a different color. You can put different things on the pouches. So it is very nice, very comfortable to pack, even with all the weight. Very comfortable to wear. It's great that way, but to me, it's still a pack. So I have a great big knife here on the side. Can't get to it. It's not on the belt, right? So there's a problem. Again, it's a great big knife. This one happens to be a Becker BK9. It is a nice knife. Again, I don't have a hot hatchet with me or a saw. I have the giant knife. I have, just because it had a pouch for one, I have a Leatherman tool in here, a Leatherman Wave. But I got a Leatherman in my pocket. And this thing probably weighs at least a pound. It's a great piece of equipment, but probably don't need 2 of them and a great big knife. So I'm going to set that to the side for this trip. I have a honing stone, so to speak, a steel that goes in here. So I have that. I have no idea what that giant explosion was outside. All right, moving around here, trying to do this a little differently, is just a utility pouch. In it, I've got toothpaste, sewing kit, bug juice, my whistle, a triangular bandage, the same green one before. I have my meat sticks in here, pencil for the pouch. In this pouch, this is waterproof, right in the rain. I have my batteries in here, the right in the rain pen stuck in here, hearing protection in here. And again, this is waterproof along with being a right in the rain notebook itself. Those are stuck in there. So instead of trying to put all this away and bore you guys with that, I'll just set it off to the side. Zip that up for now. Another utility pouch. In this reflective American flag patch, for those that want to see me behind or come find me. In this I have my 22 ammo again. One. So 200 rounds of that. And in front of the pouch, zip that open, I have the one spare magazine. There we go. So we got that. On here I have my trauma kit. I'm trying to remember what brand it is. It's got a rat's tourniquet on it. It's medic. But this, after you pull this off, comes off of your pack, which I need to re-snap apparently. Tourniquet on the bottom, which hangs on there but is not designed to be there. Another tourniquet here. Typical trauma gear inside. It's my medic brand, that's what it is. This is supposed to rip open like this. And you pull it down and you get all your stuff. So, if you haven't, by the way, folks, if you have one of these and you haven't opened it up, taken your tourniquet out of the plastic, I have eye wash in the plastic, not so much to get to, and make sure that your gear is kind of ready to go, especially a tourniquet, you need to do that. At least look at it, familiar yourself with it, where those things are in your gear. So this is supposed to molly down here and not come unplugged. Anyway, there you go. On the pack too, here I have all my 550 cord, feeds out of the bottom of it. And I have in the back side some surveyor, just I want to say it's pink or orange surveyor tape. If you're marking your camp, whatever you need to mark your trail, those kind of things. So that feeds out also, very handy, feeds out the bottom, like I said. Okay, nothing on the other side. So let's lay it down and get to, this is designed by Coaxer to be a giant first aid kit area. But in my case, I like to use it for the shelter stuff. It would unplug, come off there. For my shelter stuff for this trip, I have same kind of space tent. I think it's technically or not a space tent. Mylar, tube tent type thing. Sorry. Silent light sticks, a bivy sleeping bag. It's Mylar, it's supposed to be a little bit heavier. This one happens to be by Atomic Bear. It does fit me. I do believe I've had this one out and tried it on at least, so it won't, I know that. And then this is a blow up, sit upon pillow, so you can get your rump off the ground. And although this is a little bit bulky, it weighs nothing, so I kept it in here. Again, it's just sit upon material on your knees, whatever, so you don't get, like, if you get down on your knees, you can get wet, and your body can get cold depending upon the environment you're in. So this just helps protect you from that kind of stuff. Or, I guess in my case, a tiny, tiny ground cloth underneath my hip at night. Again, I'm going to reduce some of this, but the same type of help build your shelter or snare wire, whatever you might need wire with. The Leatherman tool I carry in my pocket, so same clothing, same pocket carry, has wire cutters on it, so it'll be easy for that. So that's that part, easy peasy. We covered these. In here, I have my hat, a power cord, which you'll see why here in a little bit, but phone charger cord. The same kind of face gator mask, different brand hat. Well, I guess this is Under Armour also, so not a different brand, but a little slightly different beanie. And I will have my gloves in my pocket. And those Shake chemical hand warmers. Going for the next one. It's a little bit smaller, shallower headlamp. Compass. And apparently way too many of these little things that are not even in a bag. So more towels. More towels. I don't know what I was thinking when I packed this, why I would need so many towels. This is when you start laughing, it's like a clown car. Lighter, so I like that where I can get to it. More towels. So I think with these little ones, and of course some, it's not chapstick, and it's Carmex, and I'm not sure if Carmex is petroleum based or not. Got off the side subject. So I'm going to set aside for a next trip somewhere at least 2 of those towels. We'll call it 3. There we go. So that should get me through, especially seeing how you can use them, provided you don't use them as toilet paper. Okay. So now my stove set up. Open that in a minute. My snack set up. So I did take a little more snacks than I normally would. Binoculars I would have around my neck most likely. So I do have those just because, you know, I'm up there looking around, scouting at things and like binoculars. I have some vacuum sealed, grass-fed, a little bit healthier for you type meat sticks. Those go with my snackages. More snacks. The actual stove part of my cook and setup. There is my boo-boo kit. I put it in here under some things because for what you don't need a tourniquet for and major bleed stop gauze type stuff, I can probably wait just a few seconds or a minute or so to dig it out. But it is, again, a few overnight meds, little finger splints, triangular bandage, regular everyday band-aids. So that's on there. My keep my rear end clean kit. This one takes up the bulk. And for those of you that might be bigger, you understand that the bigger you are, the bigger your clothes, the more they weigh. So for all you guys that are super skinny, guys and gals, congratulations, because your stuff takes up a lot less room. But the same synthetic type t-shirt, same socks, same underwear set up in here. Just set those off to the side. In this, I have here is the blue bag that goes with that Sawyer filter, which is in this bag also. And then the syringe for flushing it after you do so many liters and stuff. But that is the whole system there. I need to reduce this a little bit. This orange thing is just to hold the tape on it. So I got regular plastic electrical tape and a few feet of Gorilla tape on here. Great stuff. Okay. I do not in my fancy trauma kit have a splint, so SAM splint in here, same one I showed you before. We're getting to the bottom. More stuff. The fancy radio that Paul showed you, I'll open that up here in just a minute. And my fire starting kit, same kind of stuff, except for I have a smaller version of those waterproof light boat matches. Another one of the pull start fire. Another one of my tubes. I've got some cotton balls in the bottom there. I've got a couple of those heat tabs, or they're not heat tabs, but the gelled SOL fuel cubes / fire starters. And then in the tin, I've got one fancy thing I want to show you here. But in the tin, I have a lot of those pink Bigfoot bushcraft fire starter type things, but they're in a tin to keep from getting destroyed and wax everywhere. And then I have this because Paul had one, and it is just an electronic lighter with a little bitty flashlight on it. So emergency light, strictly. The thing I like about this one is, though, that the tip comes out, this part, and you can move it a little bit and get it down on your cotton ball. So you can build all your fire, get this down in the fire, and then push the magic button. Don't know if you can see it or not. But then you don't have to have it like this and trying to get this whole mechanism in there. This works so much nicer. It's so cool. It recharges with a regular USB-C, hence the cord. I have my phone with me. Okay? And you say, but what do you have to recharge with? Well, that gets us back to our fancy little, you've seen these before. If you watched our, what do you have in your survival pack thing or your emergency kit. So it is a little crank radio. It has lights on, it has batteries. It's got AAA batteries or lithium ion rechargeable by the crank batteries. It has an AM setting. Yay. It works. Okay. It has weather channels, AM settings also. Okay. You can plug your USB in here to charge off the lithium batteries. That's the cool part. So it's a little battery bank that you can recharge. And then, of course, it has this little floodlight. And here's your solar panel, which, granted, would take a long time, probably about as long. But if you got nothing to do other than tend your fire and sit in the dark, wait for it to get daylight as you're lost, this might be the thing you want. Keep you entertained, charge up your stuff, recharge your lighter, charge up your phone. Pretty cool little thing. Oh, and it's got a little flashlight. Yep, just a little flashlight. I think this one actually focuses or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's another little tiny emergency. Now, we talk about redundancy, but this is probably worth the space and the weight, especially if you're going to be out there for a while. You know, your phones can go dead if they're constantly searching for service, etc. And, hey, and the spoon. Little spork, titanium. Okay, there you go. I didn't get rid of much out of this one. I could swap this out for a lighter knife. We're going to take what I think I'm going to do for this trip. So I'm going to take the military one because I'm not going to be around a lot of people and so on. They're not going to be offended that I have a firearm and a rifle and so on. So that's the one I'm going to take. I like that setup better just because I'm so used to the bat belt, so to speak, with all my stuff, where I can reach it and when I want it and not having to take it off and so on. I like canteens a little bit better than the Camelback. They tend to freeze a little less and they are just easier to get water out of when you want to fill your cup to make your coffee or tea or whatever. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. I apologize, I forgot to. So I have a little MSR stove. Okay. And in this, I have the fuel, the stove stand, comes with a lid, titanium cup, my coffee, the can, and that orange thing folds out so it doesn't all tip over, and then a super lightweight cup. So instead of canteen cups, that's what I got. This just doesn't fit in there. So what I don't have is a fry pan and things like that. You know, so if I do end up shooting game, etc., I'm going to have to boil it or, you know, roast it over the fire or whatever. We'll figure that out if I can even find something in the time of year I'm out there. I'm thinking most of the squirrels are hidden away. The birds have flown away for the winter. So it's going to be a fun trip. Ha ha ha, fun. We'll see how things go. I'll put to test some of this equipment that I haven't used before. I'll probably end up putting this in with making some swap over and improvements to the first gear I showed you. And I'm hoping to bring you along with me on that trip. Obviously, I'm not going to bore you with 3 days of watching me lay by the fire. What I am going to do is try to show you this setup, how the Mylar thing works, maybe take a thermometer, all those things that other people have done also. and have you enjoy my suffering, so to speak. And I will put to test some of the gear we have. So hang in there with us. It's going to be a good time. Thank you for sitting through all this to this point, and we'll catch you out in the field.